When I say cozy games, what comes to mind? Autumn colors, pixel graphics? Well, I did a deep dive into what makes a game cozy, how they became popular, and how fast I can make one. For most of this research, I found a document from what's called the 12th Annual Game Design Think Tank, aka Project Horseshoe 2017. And I'm gonna be honest, this looks sort of like a manifesto or some sort of schizo post, and it starts literally with Laszlo's hierarchy of needs as it relates to cozy gaming. But anyway, you can find the link to the full report in the description below. Here's what I found. Okay, first we have to determine cozy themes in games. And to do that, we can find the inverse, like what isn't cozy. So this report highlights things like extrinsic rewards, danger, fear, threat, any type of large responsibility, unpleasant distractions, intense stimulus, distance, phobias, obviously, confinement, deception, opulence, and fanciness. So now we know what sort of general things aren't super cozy. We can start to narrow down what is and how to create that feeling. So one key aspect of coziness is abundance, but not overabundance. So when I started to think about this, I pictured a spectrum where the axis is the number of items in a room, for example. On either end of the spectrum, it's not very cozy. Either it's a completely empty room or a hoarder's room. Both not really cozy. So coziness, I feel like, would fall more to the center right of that spectrum. Just enough in the room to make it feel warm and inviting, but not too much to feel hectic, or not too little so that it feels cold and isolating. Some other key themes highlighted by Project Horseshoe are protection and support. Basically, throughout the game, characters are there to support you, and you don't have to play that guardian type role. The mundane is also a key feature in a lot of cozy games. Finding joy in the simple mechanics or ideas. Think Stardew Valley's farming and fishing, or Animal Crossing's collecting. In our real world, coziness is also found through refuge and escape. Think about when you get home when it's really cold or raining, or sitting around a fireplace as the wind blows outside, which goes back to that sense of security where your house is acting as that form of protection and support. Even in non-cozy games, entering that tavern can still give a cozy vibe. And to help establish that feeling of refuge and escape, seasons play a key role in cozy games, most notably autumn and winter. Autumn, when the leaf starts to change, many people have a general association with things that are cozy, like sweaters, warm drinks, warm colors, etc. Similarly, in winter, when you walk into your house from that blizzard and hop under a warm blanket. So in terms of aesthetics, cozy games focus a lot on those warm and dim colors, with low contrast and low brightness, where everything kind of just fades together. There's also a focus on natural materials like wood, stone, or clay. For example, what feels more cozy? A wood cabin in a snowstorm, or a giant glass skyscraper? Space is also utilized to give that sense of coziness, but like I mentioned before, you can't go too far on either side of the spectrum. Too much space feels empty and cold, but too little space can give the impression of being hectic or unorganized, or a feeling of being trapped. Now, audio is obviously a huge part of game development in general, but this can really make or break a cozy game. Many cozy games focus on simple and soothing soundtracks. Think lo-fi or smooth jazz. Songs where it's easy to kind of blend together and they just kind of ramble on in the background. There's no harsh stops or interruptions. Combine this with ambient sounds like light rain, leaves rustling, a fireplace crackling, even people in a tavern chatting. But everything is kind of muted or in a hushed tone. Again, giving that warming sense, but through audio. So that covers the key aspects of cozy aesthetics, but what are some cozy mechanics? Well, I already mentioned some non-cozy themes at the beginning, so those are kind of naturally avoided. But one key mechanic, Project Horseshoe is calling intrinsically rewarding activities, which is basically doing something not because of the general reward you'd get for doing it, but because of the process of actually doing it. A good example of this is World of Warcraft questing versus Stardew Valley fishing. Most of the time, in World of Warcraft, you're doing the quest for the reward, whether it's better gear, experience points, story progression, whatever. But in Stardew Valley, at least for me, I do the fishing minigame because I like it. It's almost a meditative practice. I'm not really doing it to increase my fishing level or get money, although that is an option. It's mostly just because I like it. Cozy game mechanics are also, many times, optional. Again, avoiding that sense of responsibility, where you don't feel guilty for not doing something. All of the goals or activities are low stakes and non-committal. And primarily, many of those activities emphasize that sense of mundane we talked about earlier: chopping a tree, fishing, planting, organizing, etc. The routine that brings out that sense of coziness. And that ties into what a lot of cozy game narratives are, like running a farm or a coffee shop, organizing a store or home, these sort of low-impact, ambient, non-stressful gameplay loops. Okay, so that covers mostly what cozy games are, but why are they popular? Now, it'll vary a lot based on the person. Generally, it's to get away from that highly stressful, competitive, action-packed gameplay that many other games have. It also varies based on what you have going on in your life. Let's say you have a really stressful job or exam. Would you rather get home and have an infuriating match of League of Legends or Counter-Strike, or just walk around and hit trees and plant? I also think that the massive popularity of Stardew Valley really helped define the cozy genre and bring it to more popular mainstream gaming circles, where people played it and were like, hey, I actually like this. And from personal experience, I know people that almost exclusively play Stardew Valley type games compared to others, which ultimately helped further this whole cozy gaming aesthetic that seems to extend even outwardly to things like people's desk setups. Essentially, to extrapolate that sense of coziness even further, not just in the game, but outside of it as well. There's even a whole subreddit with 195,000 members called Cozy Gamers, and a specific Steam tag to filter games by what's quote-unquote cozy. And if everything I said in this video sounds enticing, and maybe you want to make a cozy game, then this video's sponsor Skillshare can help. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across tons of areas that are super valuable for game development, like UX design, illustration, animation, marketing, and even just general productivity. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or just side hustles to the next level. Also, Skillshare has been ramping up their platform with new features and classes. New members are asked to share a little bit about their interests, and from there, Skillshare immediately surfaces recommendations tailored to their goals. So I selected things like game development, productivity, and marketing. Now, building a game is hard technically, but also just the general management of what you have to work on. That's why I started Ali Abdaal's Notion Masterclass. You've probably heard about him on YouTube, or maybe you saw some of his videos, but on Skillshare, he has these super comprehensive deep dives into all things Notion and productivity. His presentation style is great, and honestly just super easy to watch, even on like a second monitor. So the first 500 people to use my link in the description below will receive a 1-month free trial over on Skillshare, so get started today. And thank you to Skillshare for supporting the channel. Now, doing all this research, I wanted to see how fast I could actually make a sort of idle cozy game. Now, I'm working on my first serious indie game called Castlemancer, which has pixel graphics but isn't really meant to be cozy. So I started cooking up a little weekend project. It's literally just about trees, but I'm making a separate video about that, so stay tuned. Hey, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of the video. Stay tuned for that quick kind of cozy game devlog that I mentioned. And I mean quick, it's not a big game. Like I said, it's just trees mostly, but we do bad British accent at the end of every video. That's all from me, and hopefully I see you in another one. Bye-bye.